I'd like to call this January 26, 2022 special meeting of the New Philadelphia Board of Education to order. Start with our mission statement. The New Philadelphia City Schools will provide all students the opportunity to achieve their highest potential to become educated, self-sufficient, and responsible citizens. We are committed to providing every student a diverse, quality education within a safe and secure environment through a dedicated, innovative, and highly qualified staff in partnership with parents and the community at large. We measure our decisions against the mission statement. Please rise. Mr. Lenhart, you've proudly served our country. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
That put me on the spot here. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. France?
Present.
Dr. Fuller?
Here.
Mr. Galantine?
Yes.
Mr. McMath?
Here.
Mr. Weaver?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting?
I'll move.
What was that, Galantine?
Galantine and Weaver's a second.
Second. No adjustments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Galantine?
Yes.
Mr. Weaver?
Yes.
Mr. France?
Yes.
Dr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. McMath?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So our only action item for this evening is to approve the contract with Gardner for Phase 3 of the boiler project at the high school in the amount of $2,309,113 for Exhibit 1. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Mr. McMath, and a second?
Second.
Dr. Fuller? Are there questions? Discussion? Anyone?
Well, I guess, not to put anybody on the spot, but I know there's a lot of work that's been done. Facilities Committee has met, a lot of diligence and a lot of review, shared information back, and I know where this is what's recommended by the Facility Committee, but I guess just from a standpoint of people understanding process and how we got to this place and why now, could somebody just provide a bit of an overview there?
Well, several years ago, 3 to 5, Julie, we started down this path, and it became evident that we really needed to address the heating in what's become known as Phase 3, which is the gymnasium, the band room, and the choir room. That area was heated with steam. The pipes leaked terribly, and we kept developing little bits and pieces of a plan, didn't have any money to execute the plan. The boiler failed that provided steam heat to that part of the high school, and a decision was made to replace that boiler with a convertible boiler that could both heat with steam and warm water. Warm water is much more efficient, more reliable to heat with than steam, but it also requires changing of all your piping, ductwork, if you will, in our homes. With the ESSER monies, that part of that purpose is to address heating and cooling issues in schools, gave us the money to go ahead and complete. We're not adding or replacing the boiler. The boiler is only a few years old, but we need to replace all of the runs in there so we can use the warm water feature as opposed to the steam, and that should really cut down on not only our gas bills, but maintenance as far as replacing these pipes every summer. So that alone left us with about $657,000 of ESSER monies, and there just isn't any, and what we thought about from the facilities perspective was air conditioning in parts of our buildings. We could do that. There wasn't any place in our district outside of Phase 3, gym, choir, and band, that we could afford with ESSER money to put air conditioning into the building. So this is going to afford us the opportunity to air condition those 3 areas We can afford it with the money that we were provided with the ESSER funds. And there were a couple of things that I'll just run over real quick that we, as a facilities committee, considered when we were deciding whether or not we wanted to recommend the air conditioning. And certainly if you feel like I'm getting off track or missing something, the rest of you guys are involved in that. And Trent, jump in here. But as I said, we have to complete the conversion. That conversion needs to take place, which is the bulk of the money. And this is the only area that we can really afford to with the money to air condition. I sent to the board, and they're available if folks want to see them. We have some interior temperature charts from 2 years ago as well as 4 years ago. I'd have to look to make sure. One of them, Mr. Alberts did temperature study, and Mr. Lenhart also did a temperature study. That area of the high school is tied with parts of the third floor of the high school and West Elementary as far as being the warmest when the temperature outside is warm. We took into consideration that band, choir, and gym serves about 600 kids. And 600 kids is more than double any of our graduating class sizes right now. And combining into that, those 600 kids, we want to be respectful of where everybody's at. The ESSER money is here with COVID, and gym, choir, and band really don't afford those students the opportunity to wear a mask if that's what their family decides they want them to do. But we can, with this, address air quality by putting the air conditioning into those rooms, just so those kids can be safer. That's always it seemed to us that when we looked at top 3 things you could do to help prevent the spread of COVID, there's all kinds of fights and arguments over what number 1 and 2 was, but interior air quality somehow always seemed like, anyway, it came up as the 3rd choice. So then we went on to students served outside of the school day. 11 months out of the year, the band and choir room are used, and there's 2 weeks every summer that the high school gym is closed to student activities for maintenance. Impact on learning was considered, temperature-wise. Across the board, nobody disagreed that temperature has a negative impact on learning. I think what we would describe as cursory local investigation from Mr. Galentine indicated that a lot of folks felt like that the older the kids got, the more they were impacted by heat in the classroom. So that is high school kids down there. The intent of ESSER is to address interior air quality. The air conditioning, for sure, addresses interior air quality, keeps it moving, can filter it out better. And lastly, and kind of a big one for me, was that when we were going down the path of a bond issue, one thing that was consistent from both sides was to keep the gym. And it seems like we've got 3 choices in front of us. We can keep using the school we've got. We can build a new school on site. We can build a new school someplace else. But based on what we did hear from the community back then, that gym has a long life in front of it. And regardless of what happens building-wise, we feel like that the gym, band, and choir room, best return on our money that we were fortunate to have so we can complete this from the government. But those were the things we took into consideration. And Todd was in on those conversations, Trent, Julie, and Amy. I don't know if you guys have something you want to add to that?
I think for me, the temperature studies were super helpful to see the different areas of our buildings that are really hot on really warm days. I mean, they were taking on 91-degree day, 85-degree day, I think. And so they identified for us the hot areas. And then when we were provided with numbers of students, the greater impact was the gym, the band, the choir. And so not saying that those other areas aren't important as well, but we have this money right now, and within the budget of the money that we have left from replacing the boilers, being able to add air conditioning, I think it's an opportunity that we should probably definitely consider.
Great.
So, because it's just going to be more expensive to go and do it retroactively.
Oh, and that too is why we're here tonight, specifically tonight. We did discuss this at our last meeting, but our contractor Gardner sort of nudged us into getting this done sooner than later because of potential price increases. And if we can get this to them before February, we can lock in our dollars and not have to worry about
They can only
inflation.
lock the prices in for 30 days.
Yeah,
The other thing,
There's also a timing aspect of that too. We need to start the project on time. Right? When students aren't in the building, we need to make a commitment in order to do, okay.
yeah, for sure. We need to get on the schedule, so there's people in there when the kids aren't.
Supply chain has been a real struggle.
Yeah.
We've seen that with the projects that we have, and we have used extra money in other areas too. We have been able to replace boilers and so forth. But the supply chain it's continued to be an issue, as far as getting, that's why this timeline is important. Every contractor out there is struggling with getting equipment, even getting workers, price of copper and everything else that goes into these projects. It just keeps going up. Next year this time, it may be something we can't even financially even consider because of the raising costs. But that's some of the things that went into this also. So.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So it doesn't take care of all of the needs we have in the district, but it best takes care of the need that we've had, the ESSER funds and the budget available. It's the best use of those. That's where the recommendation's coming from. That'll make the biggest impact with what's available to us.
Yes,
Like Dave said, in this very spirit of the ESSER funds is air quality.
Sure, yeah.
And
the air conditioning option definitely improves that.
improves that.
No, we should, we looked into different methods of air conditioning, but the ones that would work on the third floor of the high school or would work at West, while it would make the temperature cooler, or not as hot, I think technically, the way they operate, they don't really do anything for air quality.
Oh, okay.
At least that's what the experts
that's what the experts.
Okay.
I don't claim to be an HVAC guy. This is just what we've been told. Anything else? Please call the roll.
Mr. McMath,
Yes.
Dr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. France,
Yes.
Mr. Galantine,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Discussion on proposed changes.
All right, so this may be an abbreviated discussion based on everything that has happened in the interim, but kind of give you some background for why this is on the agenda and how we got here, and kind of let you know where we are at this point. Several weeks ago, if not a few months ago, high school administrative staff and I were having a meeting and discussing some needs that we felt that we were having at the high school to help all of our students be successful. We have a population of students that is not achieving where we think they can achieve, and we feel like we need to do something different. And so they're kind of brainstorming some ideas, and on January 14th, 4 school days ago, due to the holiday and the snow days, high school staff administrators had a department head meeting where they rolled out their first idea for how they could address these changes, which involved removing the different leveling of classes, of the core classes. So currently we have the CP level of class and we have the regular level class. So the first option, or the option they threw out and proposed to the department heads, was that we were going to take away that leveling because they felt like that was going to address the academic needs better for all students. In short, I think it's easy to say that we got a lot of feedback that that was not a good idea. And we got that feedback from teachers, we got that feedback from parents, we got that feedback from members in the community, that this was not going to be a good plan, that while that may address the needs for some of our students who are not achieving, that was also going to be a detriment to our more higher achieving students. And so I guess the message that I'm going to give you tonight is that it's back to the drawing board, that we listened, we heard that feedback, and we're taking it seriously. So there was supposed to be another meeting with the department heads yesterday morning to roll out some additional ideas and try to problem solve this situation so that we are not disadvantaging one group of students in order to provide a greater advantage to another group of students. Due to the snow day, that meeting didn't happen. They're working to reschedule it. I think it may happen later this week. But the high school staff is going to work with the high school teachers to try and come up with a plan that will better serve the needs of students. I don't know exactly what that plan is going to look like because they still have to have those conversations. So I don't have a lot of details to share, just to let you know that they're working on this. Due to the fact that they are still working on this, there's a possibility that the course handbook, the course guidelines, which they were planning to have in your hands for approval at February, that might not be ready. They are committed, and by they, I mean the administration at the high school is committed to getting this right and doing this the right way, and have assured me that even if they don't get that to you for approval until March, that they will still have time to adequately schedule students for classes next year, and we will be ready to go. So there may be a delay on that. Time will tell as they have these conversations with teachers and kind of work through the details. But the original idea, like I say, I think it's safe to say, based on the feedback that we received, that that's not going to be the plan. Don't know what the plan is going to be yet. I do want to say one thing, though, because I've heard from several people who have reached out to me that there's some conversation out in the community that we are going to eliminate our AP, our advanced placement courses at the high school. That is not going to happen. That was never part of the plan. I think somewhere along the line that miscommunication got out there and people heard that and were very concerned about that. That is not a plan. We are not eliminating any of our advanced placement courses. What is true, we had been offering some college credit classes through Hiram in the high school so that our students could take those classes in the high school and still get college credit. Well, Hiram University has notified us that they are no longer going to partner with us in that way. So that's going to look different. We're still looking for ways that we could possibly offer those college classes in the high school. Again, that's kind of an open question right now. So those are going away, but not because of a decision that the district is making. That's a decision that the university made because it was no longer financially prudent for them to offer those courses to us. So those are the updates that I have. I'll be glad to entertain questions, of course, but I don't have a lot of answers because they're still working on it.
So does this mostly affect 9th and 10th graders?
We have those CP classes at all levels.
Okay. And can we approve a course of study in February and then approve an addendum to the course of study in March? I don't know if that can happen or not. I'm just trying to think through ways that our administrative team and guidance counselors can maximize the time they have to help these kids schedule.
Sure.
Is that something, can you split that up to where what we're talking about, or you're thinking about changing in March and what's going to remain the same in February? Is that possible?
I think it's going to depend on how big the changes are and what that looks like.
Okay.
So that's certainly something we can consider, and I'll get back with additional information when there is information, but we'll certainly do everything we can to get the information out as quickly as possible while still ensuring that we've addressed the concerns that have been shared.
Does it prevent them from getting started on rough scheduling until we have the course guide approved?
As,
I mean, yes is an okay answer. I'm just curious.
yes.
Okay,
I think it
all right,
does.
gotcha.
I think it does. I think it would be difficult to do that, to schedule classes when we weren't exactly sure what classes we were going to offer.
Gotcha. So then I think the last question I have is, what's your time frame? What do you think we might hear? Is it Valentine's Day or next meeting? Is it the 14th?
It is Valentine's Day is next
Do you
week.
think we'll have another meeting before that? Do you think you'll have more informative update then for a March vote?
I will definitely have at least an informative update at
Okay.
our meeting. If there is, if the work is complete at the high school and they have come to an agreement on how best to offer a solution for our students, I will definitely get that out, not only to the board, but to the community, because this is impactful for a lot of people. They want to understand what we're thinking.
Okay, I apologize for saying that was my last question because it wasn't the last thing I had
That's
wrote down
okay.
here. I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. The goal here is to, on one end, make sure that we're providing the kind of support we should for kids that are maybe struggling in the classroom. And on the other side of that spectrum, raising the bar for the kids that excel, so they're not bored, disconnected, and actually headed towards what our mission statement says, reaching their maximum potential.
Absolutely. The goal is
Okay.
to provide all students that
Basically,
opportunity.
we're raising the bar on both ends of that spectrum with what, at least that's what you guys are setting out to do.
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Yes, that's the goal.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, I quickly, my understanding is what we're looking at, right now, we have at-risk students that we are concerned, we'll make sure that they're being addressed. My understanding also is we're looking at the ELL kids. And that's a growing population. I'm assuming that the ELL director will be involved in this decision-making with the department heads and the high school so that she can,
Definitely going to be a team effort, yes.
okay, good. I assumed she was, I just want to make sure.
Other questions?
As you're working through the, sorry, Chris. As you're working through the process, though, if it does take into March, scheduling can still possible.
Yeah, I asked that question specifically of Mrs. Claxton at the high school, and she said, actually, she said we would still be ahead of where we were this past year because of all the administrative changes. They were way behind. She said, so even if we didn't start it till March, we would still be able to complete it earlier than we did this year. So it would not be an issue.
That's good.
We could have another meeting, but let's say you guys, we're ready, we have a meeting, was it February 14th? You're not ready February 14th, but you're ready February 27th.
Sure.
We can have a meeting like this, boom. We don't have to wait till the March meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We'll definitely just be in communication about where we are and
Yeah, I'd have no problem.
act accordingly.
It's a good idea. Anything else?
Well, I guess just picturing objective and starting with trying to address needs that would move the needle for all students, right? And then having some option that's kind of was initiated, kind of put out there, and now we're revisiting, got feedback that says, hey, look, this is, there, we need to work through this. This is not going to be, whether it's well received or accepted, or whatever, even if it was rooted in, hey, here's the intention and objective we want to accomplish. Now, this isn't really, this needs more work. And I guess what goes along with that too, I'm also picturing just the collaboration piece of involvement with folks. If we're clear on what the objective is, clearly all these options have pros and cons or things, you know, trying to find the best solution. I guess those best solutions might always shift a little bit based on the filter of what somebody's using as far as how they look at those things. But I guess at the end of the day, so that we're not just having something that's lopsided or imposed or anything like that, we've got folks that are educational leaders in buildings, and in our district, we have folks that are educational leaders in the classroom, and the hope, I guess, my hope would be we're going to get a recommendation that has been thought through and where there's been some involvement also. Is that the fair?
That is certainly the goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And whether
Absolutely.
they're, and this sort out, even just to go through that process of being able to say, hey, here's these, and I guess even with what some of those pros and cons would be as we go through that, just on updates and understanding what the objective is, what the rationale is behind it, and the why. Get enough buy-in from that what we've got is hopefully a recommendation that everyone feels good about that is going to meet what we're after. I think one of the things I picture on the timing is we only have one opportunity a year to make those kind of changes, right? And over the last several years, there have been a lot of improvements, there's been a lot of enhancements, there's a lot of things offered to students to increase rigor and things that they're involved in that they didn't have access to before. We don't want to slow that down. But
Correct.
it also feels like if we don't do something and get commitment to work through it pretty quickly, then we just turn the page and we do exactly what we did for another year. And do we miss an opportunity to improve something or not?
Right, and that's what we're hoping not to do, is miss that opportunity, because we do have a group of students that are not achieving where they can, But I know that our teachers and our administrative staff are professionals.
Yeah, for sure.
And experts. And that as they work together, I'm very confident that we're going to be able to come up with a solution that is going to be a better option and hopefully raise the achievement for all of our kids.
I think this is a great opportunity. I know Megan graduated second in her class from New Philadelphia and very well prepared to go on to college, but she was never identified as gifted. And it sounds like this is going to help eliminate some of those hurdles that she had in getting to where she was when she graduated from here, that to make sure those opportunities are available to those kids. And, at the same time, there's nobody here left, I guess, but there's folks that I had knockdown, drag-out arguments to give out with, that trying to make sure that Zachary was included in a classroom so he had somebody to model his actions after. And it's kind of sounds like we're working towards that too, for both ends of that. I respect it as having been involved in both sides of that thing, that there's got to be a balance there between the high needs and the high achievers. And it sounds like you guys are headed that way. So I'm proud to be part of this.
Yeah, well, I'm confident that we have the experts who can figure that out.
Absolutely.
And I guess one other question, just on the communication piece, because these things get out and then there's feedback and then there's rumors, whispers, truth, whatever, all of that's out there, I get that. So is there or should there be any communication that will just go out to parents or something that just says, hey, this is out there, here's what we're doing? I guess any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's probably where this took a wrong turn initially, is that we didn't
Okay.
get that out there and get that feedback
Okay.
initially. So I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I do think that we need to communicate better so that we're communicating accurately, because then the rumors got out and the misinformation, and I'd like to try to avoid that. So
Sure.
we're being transparent about what the goals and intentions are and the plans, and making sure that information gets out accurate.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Well, we come here on these evenings to conduct the business of the board. And that's why we're here. And so we kind of try to keep things smooth and consistent. However, the board is here. And while I am about to ask for an adjournment, I'm sure that some of us will hang around. If any of you who took the time to show up this evening have anything you'd like to speak to us about, please approach the table at the front of the room and chat with us. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
And call the roll?
Dr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mr. France,
Yes.
Mr. Galantine,
Yes.
Mr. McMath,
Yes.
motion carries.